Hey, what's up? Zach here, and today I've got the Serious Player Only Player 1 Plus. And thanks to Serious Player Only for giving me a pair of these to check out. However, this video is not sponsored, and as always, all opinions, good, bad, and indifferent, are all my own. Now, the Player 1 Plus to me occupies two spaces. Both minimalist, super buttery, kind of low to the ground feeling shoe, as well as ultra maximalist. And it is a very fine needle to thread. And honestly, SPO, I think threaded that needle pretty darn well. Well, that starts off in the uppers. Number one, it's these really chunky cables that are fused over top of and almost perpendicular to TPU threads going throughout the entire upper. It goes all the way, I mean, not the entire upper, goes all the way to the heel counter and ankle collar, but right there it meets an external halo of a heel counter that is complemented by an internal heel counter as well. And then you kind of go inside the shoe. You can kind of see those cables, those chutes that go from the reinforced lace line into the strobel, kind of mimic how you'd be tying the shoe down. So in terms of lockdown, really fantastic for how low the collar is on the shoe. As you can see, you do get kind of a triangular runner's knot. I just did a quasi runner's knot, or kind of like a modified Canadian lace on these, and I had really great lockdown. Heel slippage for me was none on these, which was really nice. Now the tongue on them is a little bit thin. It's double thickness as you get to more of the proximal ankle, but I didn't have any lace irritation either, so really not bad. Also aids a lot in its breathability. The rear foot, you see, you actually do get a decent amount of padding around the ankle collar and heel counter. Like this thing on the breathability test, it did heat up 111.4 degrees, which honestly, I thought it was gonna be more. It being an exposed drop-in midsole, those usually heat up more, and just all of the reinforcement on it. But surprisingly, it did better than I thought. Look at the breathability mapping on these things. You can kind of see where fog's coming out. You know, it does take a while for it to get out of the forefoot of the shoe. There is a layer of padding that does not have any egress points in the forefoot of the shoe, but the tongue is a little bit more porous. So I think they're gonna do better than expected with heat management and kind of as you would expect with moisture management, to be honest. And then look at this thing on the upper durability test, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper. I mean, yeah, the burr does not even get through the clear coat drag guard on this. You do have outsole rubber that comes up over it. Those cables and TPU, both incredibly strong. So really, no matter where you're looking in the uppers, there's just really thoughtful reinforcement pretty much everywhere you look. All right, getting into the midsole teardown, the one great thing about Serious Player Only is you can buy midsole replacements, which is phenomenal in a drop-in shoe. I wish more people would do that. I just want to check one thing here. Yep, okay. So you do get two different midsoles. One is just a standard EVA drop-in midsole. I just had to make sure. And the other one is EVA, compartmentalized eTPU. And then what they say is vaporized gel. It looks exactly like the silicone pads on the Asics gel line as well. You also do get a carbon fiber shank that is integrated into the actual, strobe board of the shoe, the actual shell of the shoe. What I noticed is, honestly, I didn't notice a huge difference in terms of once I started getting going in these, in terms of the lighter midsole versus the heavier midsole. Now, obviously, the lighter midsole is gonna make the shoe lighter. It is just a lighter product. I did notice just more fullness under my arch with the higher volume insole. And it does feel just a little bit more stout under the forefoot. In the rear foot, I honestly, both materials are okay, so I didn't really notice it too much. If you look at both of these drop-in midsoles in the bounce height test, both got 36 centimeters in the rear foot, 37 in the forefoot. I just think, number one, that eTPU is underneath of the EVA. So a lot of times you see that in other shoes where if you wrap anything in EVA, a lot of times it's gonna have a really significant effect on the feelings underfoot. So like I said, you can definitely feel a little bit more stout underfoot, and people that want more of that arch support are gonna love it. I would say those people definitely should look toward the combo drop-in. However, if you're looking for a little bit more weight reduction in the shoe, maybe a little more ground feel, I really don't think there's anything wrong with just sticking with the light version of the drop-in. All right, getting into the outsole tread, to me this is kind of like a scribble pattern going through it. That they said they named it after like the gears, like the tines of a gear, which I think is pretty cool. Look at the grip test ramp though. They don't slip till 45 degrees for their initial grip, and I did not have to wipe these down once. In all the times I played in them, did not have to wipe them down one time. The grip was the same from the first time I took them on till the last. And I have to say, it's the most sure-footed grip I think I've ever put on these. So number one, I think it's because the shoe is pretty buttery in the forefoot, it's pretty flexible in the forefoot, so you can get a lot of ground feel. But number two, it's the compound of rubber. I think, yeah, the pattern of traction is all well and good, but I think it's just that rubber compound on these things. Look at this thing on the speed ratio. I actually had to write all this down because all the different weights. They come in initially at 2.53 and 2.65 for the heavier and lighter ones respectively. And then shank score of 0.1 bumps that up to a 2.63 and 2.75 respectively. I kind of think that's a good place for them, to be honest. They're not rocket ships. I mean, they are drop-ins. Yeah, there's carbon fiber there in the midfoot, but they are still pretty buttery shoes. In terms of quick movement, in terms of easy buttery movement, sure-footed side-to-side movement, they're out of this world. In terms of just going for layup, 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 or going north to south on the court, yeah, they're fine. They're definitely not gazelles, at least the way I saw it. They're much more of a buttery side-to-side shoe. If you're bringing the speed, if you're bringing the jump force to them, then they're gonna do just fine. But to me, these are much more of like a buttery ground assault shoe, which, hey, that's all well and good. They have a ton of stopping power with this plastic clip on the outside of the shoe, has just enough of a lateral flange on them to make them really, really sure-footed. So yeah, nimble, sure-footed, and buttery for sure. Are they absolute gazelles? No, but I really don't think that's what they were designed for either. And on the outsole durability test on these things, 10 seconds highest grit sandpaper, yeah, I mean, 1 millimeter of damage. And I mean, the durometer is only 14.75, so it's not super hard rubber. If you keep them on indoor courts, they should be just fine, because it is pretty chunky rubber. So I'd say on indoor courts, they're gonna be just fine. They're gonna play well on outdoor courts for sure, but you're gonna tear through that rubber a little bit faster on outdoor courts. But I think as long as you keep them on indoor courts, honestly, I think that they should do just fine. All right, but getting into the fit of the Player One Plus, these things are just super forgiving. They do have a 13-degree inflare, which I did not feel at all, just because of the rest of the shoe. They do come in at 28.6 centimeters in length, so a hair short, 9 centimeter metatarsal width, 10 centimeter toe box width, and then a toe box taper of only 26 degrees. One thing I noticed in these though, is that remember, when I measure these, I measure the usable space for your feet, which is, you know, kind of just the footbed, right? I don't measure the entire outsole of the shoe, because if it's bulked up on the outside and there's no room for your foot, that width doesn't do anything for you. On these ones though, there actually is a lot of usable space along the arch. By that I mean right under your first metatarsal. So your distal arch kind of sits up on top of this drop-in midsole. So it effectively gives you a lot more space in the shoe. So even though the numbers, like the read on the bottom of the shoe, are a hair, you know, more narrow than some of the more forgiving shoes out there, they feel incredibly forgiving in the forefoot. Like I said, the taper is pretty mellow too. So I'd say a narrow and medium foot, I'd probably just go true to size these because they lock down so well. And if you want more room up there, I think you should be just fine. If you're narrow and short-footed, you better be short-footed. You can go down that half size. Remember, on drop-in midsole shoes, you're always gonna lose some length. That's just a part of the game. In terms of a 2E, I had no cramping in these really. I had a little bit of tightness around my midfoot, but that was really it. Forefoot felt great. A 4E, I mean, here's the thing, if you're a 2E and 4E, they lock down well enough, you can go up that half size. 4E, you can go up a size in these if you want, you know, get a little more room in there. I think that is just fine, but if you want that kind of performance fit, if you want that more snug fit, they have just enough room up there that a 2E can go true to size, and a 4E, if you're in the mood to break in a shoe, you can, but otherwise, like I said, you can go up just because they are short, so there's really not a problem there. In terms of the snake bitten foot, I really think the dual density, or I guess the tri-density insole is gonna be really good for people with arch pain, heel pain, you know, ball foot pain too. There's enough protecting you down there. Remember, it is a drop-in midsole shoe. And remember, the shank is not connected to the midsole, so there's not as much load sharing there. However, these, like some of the Way of Wade drop-ins, if you're gonna use a drop-in midsole shoe and you're someone that has some issues, you know, some old injuries, these are probably the ones that are, you know, these are some of the ones that are gonna be really good for you for sure if you're looking in the drop-in category. Remember, you can't put orthotics on top of a drop-in. I know a lot of serious player-only shoes, they actually are shaped that you can put orthotics in lieu of a drop-in midsole, but you can't put one on top of it. So I would say for a drop-in shoe, they are very good, but just remember, it is still a drop-in. And in terms of the performance of the Player One Plus, I kind of touched on it in the speed section. Super buttery shoes, super nimble shoes, really sure-footed grip. If you are someone who maybe plays on not the best maintained courts, like I have here, you know, you're gonna get a consistent performance on these versus, you know, the most pristine courts like the other ones I play on. I mean, I know me, I go from just the absolute best courts to the absolute, you know, Put it this way, not the best courts here. And for me, it was just the consistency that I think was the best part of these. Yeah, the buttery feel is fantastic. Kind of the nimble way they move around, the flexibility of them is fantastic. That's just, like I said, the overall feel is great, but it's the consistency, I think, that really makes these things a great shoe. So love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you someone who is a believer in serious player only, or are you someone that's looking to give them your first try? Let me know down below. And if you want to see what's going on with Jaylen Brown's new shoe, the 741 Rover, make sure you click into this video up above and subscribe down below. Respect to everyone, foam. I'll see you somewhere in the Sneakerverse.